When my son got sick, I had to take unpaid leave. My in-laws called a family meeting without me and told my husband, "She's becoming a burden. You deserve better." His aunt whispered to me later, "They're looking for a way to push you out legally." I smiled, thanked her, and started recording every conversation. This morning, I sent a USB drive to their church group. When my son got sick, everything else stopped. At first, it was just a mild fever. The kind kids get all the time. I wasn't worried. I gave him Tylenol, kept him cool, and held him when he cried. But the fever didn't break. Then came the rashes, the swollen glands, the way he started sleeping too much. That's when I knew something was wrong. Deeply wrong. The diagnosis hit like a punch to the chest. A rare autoimmune condition. Nothing you catch from a playground or daycare. This was something inside him, something that had been quietly building, and now it was taking over. I quit my job the same day the doctor told us. I didn't ask anyone's opinion. My son needed me full-time, and no paycheck in the world was worth more than being by his side. I didn't expect applause, but I didn't expect punishment either. That's exactly what I got. At first, my husband seemed supportive. He said all the right things. "We'll get through this. You're doing amazing. He needs you." But after a few weeks, I noticed the change. He started sleeping with his back to me. He ate dinner in silence. He looked at his phone more than at me. I thought it was the stress. We were both scared, after all. But one night, I heard him on the phone in the garage. He didn't know I was standing by the door. "I can't take much more of this. She's just too much." I didn't sleep that night. I sat next to my son's crib, listening to his shallow breathing, watching the monitor beep, and wondered when exactly I had become too much. The answer came a few days later. They had a family meeting. I wasn't invited. I only found out about it because his aunt, bless her, truly called me the next morning. She hesitated for a long time, then said softly, "You need to know what's going on. They think you're holding him back. They told your husband he deserves better. They're looking for a way to push you out legally." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I said thank you, and I hung up. Then I sat down on the edge of our bed, still unmade from the night before, and stared at the floor. It was quiet in the house. My son was asleep. My husband had left early that morning. I sat in that silence for a long time, feeling everything shift inside me. I had given up everything. My job, my sleep, my sanity, my health. I was in and out of hospitals with my baby boy, fighting insurance companies, fighting exhaustion, fighting fear. And while I was fighting, they were plotting. From that day forward, I started recording everything. I bought a second phone. Cheap. Nothing fancy. I kept it in my sweater pocket clipped to my bra, under couch cushions. I never confronted anyone. I let them talk. And talk they did. His mother was the worst. "She can't even take care of herself anymore," she said over coffee one morning when she didn't realize I was in the hallway. "She's clinging to that boy like he's all she has." His brother chimed in during a Sunday barbecue. "She's already not working. No judge is going to side with her if it comes to that. Not unless she plays the crazy card. Which she might, honestly." They laughed. I didn't. My husband? He just listened. Sometimes he nodded. Once he said, "It's like I'm living with a ghost. She used to laugh. She used to wear makeup. Now it's like she's not even trying." That one stayed with me, not because I cared about makeup, but because he was describing the exact weight I was carrying. And instead of helping, he resented me for it. Still, I waited. Every conversation became a gift. Every insult, every plan, every sneer behind my back, I caught it all. I labeled the files, organized them by date, even wrote transcripts. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, not yet. But I knew I'd need it someday. That someday came sooner than I expected. His aunt, again, the only one who showed me any real kindness, called me last week. She said the church women were gossiping. That my husband had been asking around quietly, trying to find someone who'd been through a messy custody situation. She said he was building a case. That they were planning something. And just like that, I knew what to do. I copied the files onto a USB drive. Neatly. No dramatics. Just hours of recordings. Labeled folders. One simple document at the end titled, Truth. Then I mailed it to the church office. No return address. Just an envelope. Clean. Plain. No warning. I didn't do it to make a scene. I did it because I needed someone to hear what I'd been hearing for months. I needed someone, anyone, to know I wasn't the unstable one. I wasn't the burden. I was the only one still fighting for our son, while they were busy deciding how best to erase me from the picture. I still haven't told my husband. Not yet. But the phone hasn't stopped ringing all morning. His mother's voice came shrieking through the voicemail. What did you do? The group chat for the women's ministry went quiet. And I'm just sitting here, feeding my son his oatmeal, smiling quietly while he chews and watches cartoons. They wanted to get rid of me. They should have been smarter. By evening, the silence in the house was louder than usual. My husband came home late. He didn't walk through the door with his usual fake smile. He didn't ask how our son was. He didn't say anything. Just dropped his keys on the counter, pulled off his jacket, and stared at me like I was a stranger. He knew. What did you do? He asked, his voice low, sharp. I didn't answer. He moved closer, fast, like he was trying to intimidate me. I didn't flinch. I sat on the couch, bottle feeding our son, calm and quiet. I had nothing to hide. He was the one with things to explain. You sent that stuff to the church, he said. You think you're clever? No, I said. I think I'm tired. He laughed. Not the kind of laugh you hear when something's funny. The kind that sounds like someone losing control. You're trying to destroy this family. I looked down at my son's face. His little hands gripping the bottle. His soft eyes blinking up at me like I was the only thing he trusted in the world. This family, I whispered, has already been trying to destroy me. He said nothing. Just stood there, breathing hard, jaw tight. For the first time in a long time, he didn't look angry. He looked afraid. By morning, the text started. His and again, they're scrambling. The pastor called your mother-in-law and played some of the recordings during a committee meeting. She walked out. Then one from a woman I barely knew from the prayer group. I'm so sorry. We had no idea. I ignored them all. 3 days later, a car I didn't recognize pulled into our driveway. I was washing dishes. My husband was out. I dried my hands, peeked through the curtain. It was his cousin. The one who laughed about me playing the crazy card. He was standing there holding a folder. I didn't open the door. He slid the folder through the mail slot and left. Inside was a typed agreement. Custody. He was trying to take my son. It wasn't from a lawyer, not yet, but it was a warning shot. A scare tactic. There was no legal weight behind it, but the message was clear. Back down, or this gets ugly. I sat at the table for a long time after that, just staring at the paper. I read every line. It said things like, for the child's stability, and due to ongoing emotional distress within the household. Lies. Every sentence a carefully written knife. I wasn't scared. I was something worse. I was awake. I called my old coworker, Rachel. She used to work HR but had gone back to school for law. I hadn't talked to her in almost a year. When I told her everything, she didn't hesitate. We're going to build a case, she said. But not the one they think. That night, I sat in bed and started writing everything down. Every date, every name, every time someone spoke over me, doubted me, belittled me, tried to tear me out of my own life. I wasn't going to hide anymore. But the real twist came 2 days later. My husband's aunt showed up at my door again, this time with shaking hands and tears in her eyes. She looked smaller, like something inside her had cracked. They've been hiding something from you, she said. Something I didn't know either. I let her in. She sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee she never drank, and told me something that made the room spin. Your husband, he's been seeing someone else. My body went cold. My fingers went numb. Who? I asked. She looked down. Someone from the church. The youth choir director. She looked no older than 23. I remembered her smile. Polite. Sweet. Always calling me ma'am. And your mother-in-law knows, she added. She's helping cover it up. She thinks it's better for him. She thinks that girl will give him the life he deserves. I stood up slowly. My knees didn't feel steady. I walked to the hallway mirror and stared at myself. This was never about me being tired. This was never about unpaid leave. This was about them replacing me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because the pieces were finally falling into place. The late nights, the cold shoulder, the quiet little smiles he gave his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. It had all been there. I just didn't want to see it. I thought the worst thing they could do was try to take my child. I was wrong. The worst thing was realizing they had already decided I didn't matter, even while I was breaking my body to keep my son alive. The next morning, I dressed like I used to. Simple makeup. Clean hair. Nothing fancy. Just awake again. I dropped my son off with a home nurse, kissed him on the forehead, and left the house. I drove to the church. The parking lot was half full. Women were coming in with casseroles and covered dishes. I walked straight through the side door and into the back kitchen, where the pastor's wife was setting out plates. She looked up and froze. I could see it in her eyes. She knew. "I won't be long," I said. I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. I just asked for the flash drive back. "I want to handle this the right way now," I told her. Privately. She nodded and handed it over. "I believe you," she said. "But it's not just about them anymore." That made me pause. "What do you mean?" She glanced toward the door, lowered her voice. "You're not the only woman he's been close with. There's another one. Older. Married." She came to me after she heard the tapes. Thought maybe she wasn't the only one. My stomach turned. He was cheating on me with 2 women. One barely out of college. The other a mother of 2, who sang beside me in the choir last year. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just walked out holding the flash drive tight in my hand like it was a key to something bigger now. Back at home, I started digging. I logged into our shared bank account. I'd always let him handle the money, one of my biggest mistakes. Now I looked carefully. There it was. Hotel charges during times he claimed to be working late. Gifts I never received. Gas station stops near towns we had no reason to visit. And then, something I hadn't expected at all, a second savings account. It was under his name, but the funds had come from ours. Every month since our son got sick, he'd been moving small amounts. Nothing huge at once. But over time, thousands. All while I thought we were struggling. I copied the records. Then I found an email thread between him and his mother. She had a lawyer. Not one she'd used before, someone out of state. Someone willing to do things quietly. They were planning to file for emergency custody on the grounds that I was mentally unstable due to stress and that I'd neglected the marital home. And then, one last twist. One of the emails mentioned a private investigator. One they'd already hired. They'd been watching me, trying to catch me slip. Trying to build a case while pretending I was still part of their family. But they hadn't expected I'd build my own case, piece by piece, with their voices, their texts, their receipts. The best part? I hadn't sent everything to the church. I'd held back the worst. The parts that didn't just make them look cruel but criminal. Hidden finances. Coordinated lies. Interference with medical care decisions. And now, as I sat on my living room floor, watching my son nap on the couch, I knew what I had to do. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was war. I didn't rush. That was my first decision. I let them think I was falling apart. I let them believe I hadn't seen the email trail, the hidden account, the second woman, or the plans to take my son away. I smiled when they walked past. I nodded when they spoke to me like I was invisible. But behind the scenes, I prepared everything. Rachel helped me file for legal separation. She found me a good custody lawyer, one who understood quiet women with sharp minds. One who listened closely when I told her, they want to erase me. I need to make sure they never can. We built the case quietly. The bank records, the voice recordings, the timeline of hospital visits compared to hotel stays. The flash drive I sent to the church. That wasn't the real one. That was only part of the story. The real flash drive, the one that mattered, was for court. Before I filed, I confronted my husband. He came home from a long day and found me at the kitchen table. A folder sat between us. "What's that?" he asked, pretending not to be nervous. "Evidence," I said. He laughed until he opened the first page. It was the bank transfers. The second page, his messages with the choir girl. The third, a signed witness statement from his aunt, confirming the secret family meeting and their plan to push me out. His face changed. That smug calm turned to panic. "You've been spying on me?" "No," I said. "I've been surviving you." Then I slid the final envelope across the table. A letter from my lawyer. His eyes scanned the words. Separation. Full custody request. Petition to freeze accounts. What the hell is this? "Fair," I said. He stood up, knocking the chair back. "You think this will hold up? You're just some tired, broke woman with a sick kid." I stood up too.
Calm.
Steady.
No.
I'm a tired, broke woman with proof. And I don't need to scream or cry. I just need to show up. He left that night. His mother called the next morning, screeching through the phone. I hung up without saying a word. The legal process took months. They tried everything, claimed I was mentally unstable, said I isolated the child, that I was vindictive, paranoid. But they had no evidence. I did. And I didn't need to lie. When it was time for the court hearing, I sat quietly while the judge listened to my recordings. He heard my husband mocking my breakdowns. He heard his mother calling me dead weight. He heard them planning how to hide assets, how to stage photos of me looking unwell. When it was done, the judge didn't even hesitate. I got full custody. My husband got supervised visitation, twice a month. His mother? She tried to speak up in court. The judge silenced her. "Ma'am, you are not a party to this case. And from what I've heard, you're lucky you're not being investigated." The fallout came fast. The youth choir director lost her position after the pastor heard more tapes. The older woman, his other affair, came forward with her own story, and her husband filed for divorce. She moved out of town not long after. My husband moved into a one-bedroom apartment near the city. His mother's reputation crumbled. The church women stopped inviting her to luncheons. A few whispered about what she did to that poor girl. Her face, once so proud, looked small the last time I saw her in the grocery store. She turned her cart and walked away fast, pretending she didn't see me. But I saw her. I saw all of them for who they really were. And me? I went back to school. Online, at first. I studied health advocacy, so I could help other parents like me who'd been silenced or dismissed. I took small jobs. I rebuilt slowly. Most importantly, my son got better. He still had his condition, but with the right care, he improved. He laughed again. He walked more. He hugged tighter. And he looked at me like I was his whole world. Because I was. One night, after a long day, I held him close and whispered, "They tried to take you from me." He leaned against my chest, small fingers gripping my shirt. "But I'm still here," I said. "And they're not." He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Some kinds of justice don't come loudly. Sometimes they come in silence.
In peace.
In freedom. And that was the real revenge. They lost me. And I found myself,